Thanks for tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate and the Advocate, the larger news organization that's covering all of Louisiana. Every Monday through Friday, we're glad to bring you the written reporting of the Advocate as read by our wonderful, generous volunteer newsreaders, people like Mr. Bruce Cohen. We couldn't do it without him and the other volunteer newsreaders. Good morning, Bruce, and thanks for joining us.
Well, good morning. It is another morning. We woke up to another day.
We did wake up to another day. I believe there's a lot of news about the election last night and the ongoing vote counting.
There definitely is. So let me get to it right away. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Bruce.
Well, you're welcome. Well, good morning, Acadiana. Local News Live for November 4th, 2020. One of the top article that we lead off with, obviously, is about the presidential election. I'm sure that most of you out there who have access to any kind of a news cycle knows kind of what's going on and what we may not know for a couple of days. Hopefully, by the end of today or early tomorrow, we will know more about who has won in the presidential election. So I'm not going to really go into that. I want to basically talk about the local races and propositions and amendments that affect us here in the Acadiana area. So we will start off with the district attorney position. It was the 15th Judicial District Attorney. Donald Landry coast to victory by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Donald Landry, 73, will be the next district attorney for Louisiana's 15th Judicial District, which includes Lafayette, Acadia, and Vermilion parishes. With 63% of the vote, he has defeated Daniel Landry, 64, in what became a contentious race in the days leading up to the election. The two men, who were not related, sought to replace Keith Stutes, who decided to retire after serving one term, which he won in 2014 by defeating longtime District Attorney Mike Harson. Stutes quit the District Attorney's office after investigating an internal bribery scandal that Harson had said he was not aware of, then ran and defeated his former boss. Danny Landry and Don Landry both started as assistant district attorneys under District Attorney Nathan Stansberry and continued under Harson. Don Landry is Don Landry is a lifelong resident of Lafayette Parish who graduated from the University of Southwestern Louisiana, now the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, with a bachelor's degree in political science. He was a reserve in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1966 through 72. He earned his law degree from the South University Law Center in 1976 and joined a local law firm, eventually becoming a partner in it. He became an assistant district attorney in 1980 and served in that capacity for 34 years. He describes himself as a strong supporter of safety in our community and someone concerned about the serious drug problem. He said he would be accessible to everyone if elected, returning phone calls within a day. He plans to have an assistant district attorney involved in serious criminal cases as soon as they occur, offering law enforcement help, advice, and interpreting the law for them. Don Landry said Stutes did not retain him as an assistant district attorney in 2014, so he focused on his private practice and serving as city attorney for Broussard. Don Landry said he wants to find a way to prosecute major drug cases involving drug dealers, not those caught in possession of marijuana. He proposed meeting once a month with law enforcement representatives in each of the three parishes to work out a plan and share information to get dealers off the streets. The minor possession of marijuana cases, Don Landry said, can be handled with diversion programs, but the judicial system needs to make sure everyone can afford diversion programs, which can be expensive for offenders, he said. Don Landry said if defense attorneys tell him that by the time an offender pays fines and the cost of required programs, it adds up to thousands of dollars. He wants to work with local officials for ideas on how to address that problem. Voting machine malfunctions reported, but Hardwin says they are intermittent by Mike Ballard, Capitol Bureau editor. So this is kind of a more of a of a state story, but it did involve Lafayette as well. Voters around the state complained Tuesday of voting machine malfunctions, particularly where candidates from different parties are chosen. For one instance, one voter at Banneker Elementary School in New Orleans reported that she noticed that after finishing, her presidential choice had been unselected, requiring her to go back and reselect her candidate. The voter told the poll worker, fearing that other voters would notice. So far, we have identified at least 4 different parishes where this problem is occurring: Orleans, Lafayette, Cato, and East Baton Rouge. Victoria Wedner said, with the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund in New York City, said in a statement. The malfunction deselects or changes voter selections for the presidential election, requiring a voter to both notice the malfunction and reselect their presidential votes, sometimes multiple times, in order to assure that their ballot is completed. Otherwise, the ballots are submitted with the voter's presidential choice changed or blanked out, Wegner wrote. Although the majority of reports concern the presidential selection, one report mentioned this issue occurred on down-ballot races as well. It has become very apparent that this issue is not isolated to 1 or 2 machines, but rather spread across the state. Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin's office told the Advocate Times-Picayune on Tuesday afternoon that despite the election's record high turnout, we have not experienced any difficulties outside the usual scope of Election Day issues. The office's technicians have remedied a few voting machine issues that have arisen, but described the situation as intermittent. Ardoin reminded voters that this occurrence, like any other problem, should be reported by the voter to the polling commissioner. A procedure is in place to resolve issues through state and local channels. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund asked Ardoin to issue emergency guidance for parish clerks of court to distribute to election commissioners, alerting them of the malfunction and providing public guidance for polling sites, instructing voters to double-check their ballots for machine errors before submitting their ballot. Louisiana had hoped to replace most of the state's aging voting machines in time for this election, but problems with the bid process caused a delay. So turning back to the races that we voted on yesterday in the state of Louisiana, Bill Cassidy cruises to second term by Tyler Bridges, staff writer. U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy easily secured a second term Tuesday after a low-key election. Cassidy, a Republican who had won 63% of the vote, with about 65% of the vote counted. We got 2 visions of the United States. One vision is where we, the people, kind of make our own decisions, and the other vision is where folks in Washington, D.C. make decisions for you. I'm for you, I'm for us, Cassidy told supporters in a large barroom at the Crown Plaza in Baton Rouge that was about a third full. Cassidy told folks to take food home so it doesn't go to waste. Cassidy spent a few minutes taking photos with supporters, then delivered his victory speech a little after 9:30 p.m. Shreveport Mayor Adrian Perkins was his closest Democratic rival with about 15% of the vote. That was much lower than what his campaign expected. Another surprise is that Derek Edwards, an attorney in Harvey, won about 10% of the vote, even though he didn't campaign. He had endorsements of U.S. Representative Cedric Richmond of New Orleans and State Senator Cleo Fields of Baton Rouge, perhaps the 2 best-known Black elected officials in the state. And all including Perkins, Cassidy faced 14 other candidates, but besides Perkins, only 2 others, New Orleans teacher Peter Wenstrup and a small businessman and part-time actor Antoine Pierce from Baton Rouge, raised a bit of money and did much campaigning. Over the next few years, Cassidy said in an interview Monday he wants to continue his efforts to reduce the cost of prescription drugs, eliminate unexpectedly large medical bills, expand broadband service to rural areas, and create tax credits for companies to inject carbon dioxide underground as a way to slow global warming. Cassidy began the campaign in a strong position in a race labeled by national handicappers as a safe Republican seat. Although he is overshadowed in the media by his junior Senate colleague, John Kennedy, Cassidy has been a star role to Republican over the past 6 years and hadn't committed any major gaffe. Perhaps most importantly, he has voted down the line with President Donald Trump. This scared off a challenge from a more conservative Republican. That allowed Cassidy to run a toned-down campaign in which he ignored Perkins while not feeling the need to campaign on red meat but divisive Trump issues, such as building a wall to shut down the country's southern border to immigrants. Cassidy also deflected some of Trump's more racially intolerant remarks by not agreeing with the president that pointed to what Cassidy said were financial gains minorities received during the past 4 years. Cassidy, 63, had little contact with voters throughout the campaign, in part because the coronavirus complicated holding traditional campaign events, and in part because he ran a cautious front-runner strategy of ducking debates and campaign forums and minimizing his contact with reporters. In a rare campaign event in Kenner on Monday, he stuck to generalities in a short speech telling the small crowd that he favors hard work, individual responsibility, limited government, and free enterprise. The best anti-poverty program is a good job, he said. With millions of dollars more from donors with interest in federal affairs, Cassidy relied on a series of TV ads that highlighted his past as a doctor and portrayed him as a faithful steward of Louisiana values. In one ad, Cassidy discussed his efforts to improve the lot of veterans. In another ad, Cassidy focused on his support for Trump's appointment of Amy Coney Barrett, a Metairie native, to the U.S. Supreme Court. In a third ad, broadcast late in the campaign, Cassidy emphasized his strong support for Trump, who was expected to carry Louisiana easily for the second election. Cassidy also talked up his vote for the 2017 tax bill. He didn't note that the Tax Act showered 60% of its benefits on the top 20% of earners, according to the Tax Policy Center, which is part of the Brookings Institute. Meanwhile, it appeared for a time that no major Democrat would get in the race. No Democrat had won a Senate race since Mary Landrieu won a third term in 2008. And Cassidy had thumped her in 2014 with 56% of the vote. But Perkins jumped in just before the qualifying deadline. At 34, he was unknown in the state, having served as mayor for less than 2 years in Shreveport. Perkins immediately became the Democratic frontrunner. In person and in his first TV ad, Perkins emphasized his background as the son of a single parent and as someone who graduated from West Point, who saw combat in the Army in Afghanistan and Iraq, and who graduated from Harvard Law School before winning the mayor's race in 2018. Perkins attacked Cassidy's votes to repeal the Affordable Care Act passed under President Barack Obama. He said the expansion of Medicaid has given health care to 500,000 people and benefited 1 million who had pre-existing conditions and could no longer have medical care denied to them because of that. Perkins also said he was supporting an agenda that would represent ordinary people in Washington. He criticized Cassidy's vote for the 2017 tax cut. Money from Democrats across the country flowed into the campaigns of Democrats challenging other Republican incumbent senators, including Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, Susan Collins in Maine, and Cory Gardner in Colorado. But Perkins was not able to close the money gap with Cassidy. Through October 14th, the latest campaign filing period before Election Day, Cassidy had collected $10.9 million over the past 3+ years, while Perkins had raised, $1.7 million in less than 3 months. Starting late, hurt Perkins in other ways. He didn't solidify the support of key Black political leaders in Louisiana. Richmond and Fields said they had committed to Derek Edwards before Perkins entered the race. Neither would change this commitment, even though Edwards didn't campaign and Perkins had endorsements for such big-name Democrats as former President Barack Obama, Governor John Bel Edwards, and U.S. Senator Kamala Harris. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell stayed neutral in the race, according to a spokesperson, to avoid antagonizing Cassidy, given the city's need for federal aid. Okay, incumbents enjoy easy wins for White House. Race to replace Abraham Likely headed to runoff by Will Sundell and Mike Ballard, staff writers. Okay, usually at this time I do some public service announcements, but we're going to just read through. There's so much news in accordance with the election yesterday. I just want to get those stories out there. So If I have time at the end, I'll try to hit some public service announcements. Controversial Acadiana Congressman Clay Higgins, known for his bombastic statements, won a third term in the U.S. House of Representatives, while results was still not firm Tuesday on whether two Republicans or a Republican and a Democrat will make the December 5th runoff in the race to succeed U.S. Representative Ralph Abraham in the 5th Congressional District. The state's four other incumbent congressmen, Republicans Steve Scalise, Garrett Graves, and Mike Johnson, and Democratic Cedric Richmond, all enjoyed easy rides to victory. Higgins, a former car salesman who earned fame after becoming a law enforcement officer, jumped out to a big lead when early the absentee mail ballot results were announced. He continued racking up votes as election day ballots were counted. With only a few of the 566 precincts outstanding, Higgins pulled down 68% of the vote in the 10-parish Southwest Louisiana district. Higgins has long been known for his tough talk on crime, wearing military-style gear in the popular Crime Stoppers segments on local television. He sparked controversy earlier this year when he said social justice protesters in Louisiana should be met with deadly force. He enjoyed a huge financial lead throughout the ways. The 5th District is a predominantly rural and conservative district that covers Alexandria and Monroe, then along the top of the Florida parishes to Bogalusa to the toe of the boot. The dynamic usually breaks down to a contest between candidates from Alexandria and Monroe, then between Democrats and Republicans. Abraham's former chief of staff, Luke Letlow, Republican from Start, a community near Monroe, appears headed for a runoff. His opponent will either be State Representative Lance Harris from Alexandria, Republican, and former State House Majority Leader or Democrat Candy Kristoff, a businesswoman from Alexandria. Both were neck and neck as the remaining 40 precincts remain to be counted. In the other races, 1st District, U.S. Representative Steve Scalise, Republican from Metairie, cruised to re-election on Tuesday, easily dispatching a pair of opponents, Democrat Leanne Dugas and Libertarian Howard Keamy, who have both challenged him several times in recent years. Scalise, 55, has held Louisiana's first congressional district seat since 2008 and has claimed the House GOP leadership ranks to become, as minority whip, the chamber's number 2 ranking Republican. The district is based in Jefferson Parish and the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain, and also includes a small portion of New Orleans, as well as much of the southeast Louisiana coast. Dugas, a 57-year-old disabled military veteran, has challenged Scalise in every election since 2014, but never cracked 14% above the incumbent. Kearney, a 62-year-old computer programmer, drew 3% of the vote against Scalise in 2016 and 1% in 2018. In the 2nd District, Representative Cedric Richmond, Democrat from New Orleans, handily cleared a field of 5 challengers to claim a 6th term representing Louisiana's 2nd congressional district as the state's lone Democrat in Congress. Richmond, 47, has spent much of the past 2 years hard on the campaign trail. His national co-chair for former Vice President Joe Biden's presidential campaign was widely expected to win his own election against 5 relatively unknown and unfunded challengers without breaking a sweat. The district includes most of the Orleans Parish and parts of Jefferson Parish, then runs up the Mississippi River, collecting Black majority precincts in predominantly minority neighborhoods of North Baton Rouge. Candidates Colby James and Belden and Noonan Batiste, both without party affiliation, Democrat Glenn Adrian Harris and Republicans David M. Schilling and Sheldon Vincent Sr. all appeared on the ballot against Richmond. Richmond won the seat in 2010 and has captured at least 64% of the vote in each election since. In the 6th District, Republican U.S. Representative Garrett Graves of Baton Rouge held a wide lead from the beginning of his bid for a 4th term. Graves, who breezed to re-election in 2018 with 69% of the vote, was at 71% of the vote Tuesday with about 80 precincts left to be counted. He was challenged by Libertarian Sharon Sloan of Denham Springs, who said she was running primarily to publicize Libertarian positions. Richard Torregano, who lives in Baton Rouge and has no party affiliation, and Democrat Darrington, D-A-W, or Dar Williams of Baton Rouge. In his campaign, Graves touted gains for Baton Rouge area road projects that he had a hand in, including $9.3 million for a new exit off Interstate I-10 south at Terrace Avenue aimed at easing traffic around the Mississippi River Bridge, $55 million for construction of an interchange at Q Lane off Interstate 10, and $135 million to build 8 miles of elevated highway on LA 1 between Leeville and Golden Meadow. Tarragano said both Republicans and Democrats have forgotten the middle class. Williams said he favored reducing Medicare eligibility to age 55 instead of 65, boosting teacher pay by 25%, and ending the digital divide among students who lack internet access. And in the 4th District, U.S. Representative Michael Johnson of Benton and chair of the conservative House Republican Study Committee on Capitol Hill easily beat out 3 opponents to win a 3rd term representing 15 parishes in Northwest Louisiana. The challengers were Republican Ben Gibson of Bossier City, plus 2 Democratic candidates from Shreveport, Kenny Houston, and Ryan Trundle. Early tallies show abortion measure passing by Will Santel and Mark Ballard by staff writers for The Advocate. Early returns show Louisiana voters Tuesday were approving a constitutional amendment that would add anti-abortion language to the state constitution and rejecting another proposal that would allow local governments to negotiate payments in lieu of property taxes paid by businesses. Both plans were among 7 constitutional amendments decided by voters. All 7 require majority approval to take effect. The abortion measure Amendment 1 was touted as a way to ensure that if the landmark U.S. Supreme Court Roe v. Wade ruling that legalized abortions is overturned, state residents would clearly be on record opposing the procedure if the issue returns to individual states. The new wording is aimed at making clear that Louisiana opposes abortion and public funding for abortions. 13 states have ruled that individual rights, such as privacy and due process, could be interpreted as protections for the pregnancy terminating procedure that has been legal for the past 47 years. If Roe is overturned and the issue left for the states to decide, Amendment 1, if approved, would keep state judges from issuing similar rulings. The proposal had a healthy 65% of the vote, with 3,085 of 3,934 precincts counted. Millions of dollars were spent on both sides for Amendment 5, which concerns a break on local property taxes the state offers manufacturers that locate in Louisiana or expand their hiring. The idea is to give local governments more flexibility in hammering out financial deals with manufacturers. It was failing by a margin of 38% in favor to 62% opposed. Backers said the challenge would allow local leaders to hammer out agreements that allow a quick infusion of revenue for school districts or other services. The amendment was backed by the Louisiana School Boards Association, the Police Jury Association of Louisiana, and the Louisiana Sheriff's Association. Parish tax assessors criticized the proposal, as did the community group Together Louisiana. Opponents said the new rules would cripple long-term planning by local governments and allow corporations to deduct taxes, hurting public services, or forcing taxpayers to pay more. The other 5 amendments are Amendment 2, the proposal was passing in the early vote count. The amendment was the culmination of years of negotiations between tax assessors and the oil and gas industry to resolve a long-standing dispute over how to calculate property taxes for the equipment on top of an energy fund. Under current rules, the value of the oil and natural gas cannot be used to affect the value of the property. The change would allow the value of the product being pumped and sold to be included when the property is assessed. Plaquemines Parish Assessor Belinda Hazel said assessors would consider revenue raised along with expenses and costs on oil-filled equipment, just as they would with apartment buildings. The change was backed by the Louisiana Assessors Association, the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, and the Louisiana Mid-Continental Oil and Gas Association. In Amendment 3, the amendment was passing on the early vote count. The proposal would expand how the legislature could use the state's rainy day fund money set aside for revenue shortfalls that can be used only when a specific set of circumstances are met. The amendment would widen that to include expenses for federally declared disasters, such as hurricane recovery. Like the current policy, doing so would require the support of 2/3 of the State House and Senate. No more than 1/3 of the pot of money called the Budget Stabilization Fund could be used. In Amendment 4, the proposal was failing in the early vote count. Louisiana already has a lid on state spending, no more than revenues raised. The amendment would tighten those restrictions by imposing a state spending limit of 5% more than the previous year's budget. It also required the support of 2/3 of the House and Senate to change the limit. Backers said the new restriction would bring more predictability to Louisiana's annual budget process and set aside money for the next fiscal year. Critics said it would unduly tie the hands of state lawmakers and potentially hurt state services. In Amendment 6, the proposal was passing in the early vote count. The amendment would widen existing homestead exemption property tax break. Under current rules, property taxes paid by those 65 and older are frozen if their incomes do not exceed $77,030. The amendment would raise that cap to $100,000, which would take effect in 2026 and be adjusted for inflation. State Republican Stephanie Hilferty, Republican out of Metairie, sponsor of the proposal, said the change recognizes that people work longer today and that many couples have joint incomes. Opponents said the state already has a generous property tax system and that expanding an exemption makes little sense. Amendment 7, the proposal was passing in the early vote count. The proposal would set up a special account called the Unclaimed Property Permanent Tax Fund to handle the unclaimed property the state routinely collects, including payroll checks, royalties, and deposits. State Treasurer John Schroeder and other backers said the new fund is needed because unclaimed property dollars are routinely and unfairly swept into the state general fund. They said the money needs protection and excess revenue could be invested and eventually generate $40 million per year for state services. The issue sparked a dispute between Schroeder and Governor John Bel Edwards. Governor and others contend that paying claims has never been a problem, but the excess dollars have been an important addition to the state's general fund. Okay, let me look at this. We have another story here. Okay, I'll read this one quick and then we'll take a little bit of a break with the day in history, the horoscope of the zodiac, and the funerals in the Kenneana area today. Sports betting winning lopsided support across Louisiana by Will Centel, staff writer. A ballot measure that would allow betting on football games and other sports was winning approval Tuesday night across South Louisiana, including Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans. Other areas lining up behind the push included St. Tammany, Jefferson, Ascension, Livingston, St. Bernard, West Baton Rouge, Plaquemines, St. Charles, and Terrebonne parishes. The proposal was passing with up to 77% of the vote in some spots. It was falling short in only 5 of 10 parishes statewide, backers said. The plan was on the ballot in all 64 parishes, and people in the parishes whose voters said yes will eventually be able to make bets on sports games. However, legislation that spells out details of the new industry is needed before any wagering begins, likely in 2022. Louisiana Family Forum, which says it promotes traditional family values, said the campaign was bankrolled by out-of-state operators and that sports betting drains resources from state residents. The group also said the practice preys on minors and gambling addicts, and that the proposal failed to spell out how parishes that rejected the plan will be shielded. The vote marks the second of its kind in the past 2 years. In 2018, voters in 47 of Louisiana's 64 parishes endorsed a move to legalize online sports fantasy for cash prizes, including East Baton Rouge, Jefferson, and Orleans Parish. Opponents are sure to contend that sports betting with few restrictions will lead to more issues from problem gamblers and will make the state overly reliant on a controversial practice. Sports wagering is already allowed in 18 states and the District of Columbia. A 2018 ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court gave states the ability to make their own decisions. Okay, let's look at the day in history. Today is Wednesday, November 4th. It's the 309th day of 2020. There are potentially 57 shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history, of course, it involves elections, presidential. On November 4th, 2008, Democrat Barack Obama was elected the first Black president of the United States, defeating Republican John McCain. Also in the state, in 1842, Abraham Lincoln married Mary Todd in Springfield, Illinois. In 1916, CBS newsman Walter Cronkite, we used to call him Concrete, Walter Cronkite was born in St. Joseph, Missouri. 1922, the entrance to King Tut's tomb was discovered in Egypt. 1956, Soviet troops moved in to crush the Hungarian Revolution. In 1979, the Iran hostage crisis began as militants stormed the United States Embassy in Tehran, seizing its occupants. For some of them, it was the start of 444 days of captivity. In 1980, Republican Ronald Reagan won the White House as he defeated President Jimmy Carter by a strong margin. In 1985, to the shock and dismay of U.S. officials, Soviet defector Vitaly Yukhanov announced he was returning to the Soviet Union, charging he had been kidnapped by the CIA. In 1991, Ronald Reagan opened his presidential library in Simi Valley, California, attending where President George H.W. Bush and former Presidents Jimmy Carter, Gerald R. Ford, and Richard Nixon, the first ever gathering of 5 past and present U.S. chief executives. In 1995, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated by a right-wing Israeli minutes after attending a festive peace rally. In 2001, NBC's The West Wing took 8 honors as the twice-delayed Emmy Awards, including Best Dramatic Series. HBO's Sex and the City won Best Comedy Series. In 2008, California voters approved in Proposition 8, a constitutional amendment outlawing same-sex marriage, overturning a state Supreme Court decision that gave gay couples the right to wed just months earlier. In 2014, riding a powerful wave of voter discontent, resurgent Republicans captured control of the state and tightened their grip on the House. 10 years ago, Australian airline Qantas grounded all 6 of its Airbus A380 super jumbo jets after one of them blew out an engine over Indonesia. The plane made a safe emergency return to Singapore with 469 people aboard. 5 years ago, Justin Trudeau was sworn in as Canada's new Liberal Prime Minister. 1 year ago, the Trump administration said it had formally notified the United Nations that the United States had begun the process of pulling out of the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. Iran broke further away from the 2015 nuclear deal with the world powers by doubling the number of advanced centrifuges that operated. And also on this day 1 year ago, New York Police Commissioner James O'Neill, who had been increasingly under fire amid a tug-of-war between reform advocates and police unions, announced his retirement. Looking at some of the birthdays today, we have actor Loretta Swit, who you remember from MASH, the TV series MASH, is 83 years old. Blues singer Delbert McClinton is 80 years old today, one of my favorite singers of the rhythm and blues. Former First Lady Laura Bush is 74 today. Actor Marky Post is 70. Actor comedian Kathy Griffin is 60 years old today. Ralph Macchio, as you know, is a Karate Kid, is 59 years old today. Saxophonist Tim Burton is 57. Actor Matthew McConaughey, all right, is 51. Rapper-producer Sean Puffy Combs is 51. Solo jazz singer Gregory Porter is 49. Celebrity chef Curtis Stone is 45. And actor Chris Green from the film Loving is 38 years old today. Looking at the zodiac, Scorpio, change made by a close friend or family member may be a wake-up call. Don't ignore the signs. An aggressive approach to joint ventures is favored. Make sure to include your loved ones in your plans. Sagittarius, spend less time pondering the impossible and more time focused on getting things done. Get together with someone who supports and encourages you for some needed reinforcement. Capricorn, don't lose sight of what you are trying to achieve. Allow others the freedom to do as they please. Working alone will have its advantages. Aquarius, you are in a better position than you realize. Don't let someone downplay what you have to offer. Pay close attention to medical, financial, and legal matters. Romance is favored. Pisces, mixed emotions will lead you down a rabbit hole. Check your ego at the door when dealing with joint ventures or people who try to manipulate you. Use your imagination and come up with a crackerjack plan. Aries, express your feelings and opinions. Find out who is in agreement with you. Once you establish your position, it will be easier to make the right decisions. Taurus, pay close attention to how others react to the information you share. It's important not to exaggerate or fall prey to someone's embellishment. Play it safe. And that's very true for today, over the next couple of days, during this time of trying to figure out who our next president is going to be. Gemini, size up situations and take action. Ask challenging questions and support whoever shares your values. Don't wait until it's too late to make a difference. Go out there and join in. Cancer, the first sign of trouble, address issues swiftly and make positive suggestions. Don't take chances with your health. An offer looks inviting. Leo, speak up if you dislike or disagree with something. Trying to please everyone won't help you reach your goal. Romance will enhance a meaningful relationship. Focus on physical fitness. Virgos, my birth sign, don't let an emotional matter stop you from taking care of your responsibilities. Changes to your routine and methods should be welcome. And finally, Libra. Pick up the pace, put an end to complaints and criticism by taking change and making things happen. Share your vision to receive some quality input. And as always, folks, the horoscope is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. Acadiana funerals in the area today: Bernice Collins, La Chapelle de Martin and Castile at noon, and Ryan Judice, St. Mary Mother of the Church at 1 p.m. Okay, and so let's get back into the news. Let's see, where did we end up? Okay, let's see. Odanet defeats Edwards for Lafayette City Court judge seat, so we're back into the local races by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. Michelle Odanet will be the next judge for this Division A of Lafayette City Court. The Republican candidate with firsthand experience working in city court won the seat with 57% of the vote over Jules Edward III, a district judge who ran with no party affiliation. City judges serve 6-year terms, and the Division A and B seats do not represent geographic regions. Odanet will take Judge Francis Bouillon's seat. Bouillon, who has held the Division A seat since 1994, is retiring at the end of her term. Judge Douglas Saloom ran unopposed for the Division B seat. He has held the position since 1995. City Court is sometimes called the People's Court because it is the most common one for Lafayette residents to encounter. It's where most traffic violations, misdemeanor crimes, juvenile cases, and small claims cases are heard. Odanet 52 returned to work last fall in City Court for Lafayette Parish Public Defender's Office after taking time away from the job to raise and homeschool her 4 children. Lafayette City Marshal's race goes to runoff. Judice Thomas to face off December 5th by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Veteran Lafayette law enforcement officers Kip Judice and Reggie Thomas will face each other in a December 5th runoff for Lafayette City Marshal. Nathan Broussard and John Trahan Jr. were eliminated from contention in Tuesday's election. With 95 and 96 precincts reporting Tuesday evening, Judice received 44% of the vote, with Thomas receiving 26% of the vote. Candidates have to receive 50% plus 1 vote to win outright. Trahan was third with 20% of the vote, and Broussard received 11%. The City Marshal serves a 6-year term. City Marshal's office assists with Lafayette City Court hearings, serves warrants, and assists with evictions. Judy is 55, retired from the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office in 2015 after working 30 years there. He ran for city marshal in 2014, receiving 48% of the vote in a runoff against Pope's 52%. Since May 2015, he has been the Tucson chief of police. Thomas, 54, U.S. Air Force veteran, has 30 years of law enforcement experience, including 11 months as interim Lafayette police chief and 3 years as deputy chief, in which he oversaw the entire department and assisted in preparing the department's $33 million budget. 2 judges elected, 3 head to runoff by Kristen Askelson, staff writer. There will be 2 new judges, Donnie Rhodes in the 15th Judicial District Court in Lafayette. However, in 3 of the races, the winner will have to be determined in a runoff election December 5th. In Election Section 1, Division B, Valerie Goach Garrett with 49% of the vote and Travis Broussard with 28% of the vote will face each other in a runoff December 5th to replace Judge Jules Edward, who ran for city court judge rather than re-election to the district court. Since Cynthia Fluchis with 23% was eliminated. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but it's a tough one to figure out. In Election Section 1, Division D, voters in Division D had 3 experienced and distinctive candidates: Royale Colbert, Amanda Martin, and Dwa Smith, from which to choose from to replace retiring Judge Edward Rubin. Colbert, with 44% of the vote, and Martin, with 41%, will face each other in runoff December 5th. Election Section 3, Division K, Michelle Belliud defeated Kay Gar Goutreau and Glenn Shelley Maturin to replace Judge Patrick Michaud, who is retired. She won with 56% of the vote. Election Section 3, Division M, Susan Theall defeated George Knox and Donna Renegar for the seat that had been held by Charlie Fitzgerald since January 2015. Fitzgerald was unopposed in a bid for a judge on the Louisiana Third Circuit Court of Appeal. The Division M seat has been a family court judge position since the 1990s, although it is not technically classified as such. In Election C5, Division C, Tommy Frederick, Ricky Lafleur, and Andy Veze sought to replace retiring Judge Edward Broussard in Vermilion Parish. Frederick with 40% of the vote and Lafleur with 36% will face each other in the runoff on December 5th. Now we look at the Create tax. It's been rededicated in Lafayette. School tax renewal approved by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Lafayette Parish voters have agreed to rededicate to fire protection roads and bridges a 25% mill property tax that has been dedicated to culture, recreation, tourism, and renewed a property tax for Lafayette Parish public schools. Voters in the city of Scott also rejected a proposed sales tax for police and fire protection. With 126 of 127 precincts reporting Tuesday night, 56% of voters agreed to rededicate the CREATE, which stands for Culture, Recreation, Entertain, Arts, Tourism, and Related Economies, tax versus 44% who rejected the proposal. As a result, 175 mills will be rededicated to parish-wide fire protection and 0.75 mills will go to parish roads and bridges. In November 2017, voters parish-wide agreed to take 1.1 mills in property taxes from 3.56 mills dedicated to public health, mosquito control, and animal control, and rededicated to drainage and a new culture, recreation, and arts initiative created by former City Parish President Joe Robideau. Only 0.25 mills was rededicated to the CREATE initiative, generating about $563,000 a year. When Josh Guillory replaced Robideau in January, he dissolved the CREATE program, and announced plans to ask voters to rededicate the tax. In 2018, the former City Parish Council created a new fire district for unincorporated areas of the parish, and in December 2018, voters in the district rejected a 10 mil property tax that would have been dedicated to providing fire protection for unincorporated areas. Fire rating for unincorporated areas rose from a 5 to a 6 after the tax was rejected, and property insurance rates followed suit. Duhay re-elected district attorney by Katie Gagliano. Voters in Iberia, St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes handed District Attorney Bofill Bo Duhay re-election by a wide margin on Tuesday. Duhay outpaced retired 16th Judicial District Court Judge Lori Landry, earning 67% of the vote compared to Landry's 33%, with all but one precinct reporting. Duhay led by similar margins in Election Day voting and early voting. This is the first competitive race for district attorney in Iberia, St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes in 20 years. The last contested race was in 2000 when Phil Haney won his initial election against Leon Roy. Haney ran unopposed in 2002 and 2008, and Duhay was unopposed when he stepped into the office in 2015 following Haney's retirement, according to Louisiana Secretary of State's office records. Our Democracy in Action, high voter turnout continues on Election Day in Lafayette Parish by Claire Taylor, Megan Wyatt, and Katie Gagliano. Voter participation was high on Election Day in Lafayette Parish, continuing a trend of record-setting numbers during early voting. Most polling sites had steady traffic throughout the day, with a few locations seeing long lines. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory stood outside City Hall shortly after polls opened to greet voters. Although there had been a line when the polls opened at 6 a.m., a poll worker said it was nothing extreme. Daphne Tyler, a first-time poll worker in Louisiana, who spent 20 years working the polls in Florida, arrived at Lafayette City Hall at 5 a.m. and said she would stay until the final vote was cast Tuesday night. It's been very nice, really quiet, really smooth so far this morning. People have been really cooperative, Tyler said about 8:15 a.m. Lafayette Parish Clerk of Court Louis Perret advised voters Tuesday morning to call his office about any problems voting. Voters posted on Facebook Election Day morning about problems with machines at Myrtle Place Elementary School not recording votes for president. Another posted another alleged voting machine problems at Prairie Elementary. Each time a voter has an issue, call and we'll check it out, Perret said. If a machine is truly malfunctioning, we will replace the machine. The Myrtle Place machines were checked by mechanics, he said, and they were operating properly. Jeremiah Gooding took his 6-year-old son Logan with him to Northside High School on Tuesday morning to participate in the election process. It's been a father-son tradition since Logan was just an infant. It's part of the process, Gooding said. Why shouldn't you include your child? You instill the values you want to instill at a young age. Gooding said he votes in every election, not just the major ones. On Tuesday, he said he cast his vote for President Donald Trump, although he said he did not favor either of the primary candidates. I'm apathetic to both candidates, Gooding said. I don't like how Biden has been in office forever, just the same old, same old. Overall, I think Trump has done a good job in terms of the economic conditions pre-COVID, but it's rhetorically something to be desired. I voted based solely on how he turned the economy around. Felton Baptiste, an election commissioner who has worked in polls for 14 years, said Tuesday was different than any previous experience he's had. There's a big, big difference this time, Baptiste said. It's COVID plus everything else, the racing and people not coming together the way they should. Baptiste said poll workers underwent more training for Tuesday's election in preparation for the possibility of voting interference. He said there is no expectation that anything will go wrong, and people have been cooperative all morning. Okay, turning away from the political news, Southern Screen sets virtual festival lineup. Panel screenings to be presented November 12th through the 15th by staff report. The Southern Screen, the non-competitive film festival that celebrates Acadiana storytellers, recently announced a lineup for its 10th anniversary event. The 4-day festival will be presented virtually November 12th and 15th with discussions by top actors, directors, writers, and musicians in the film industry. This year, our lineup includes discussions with Alex Borstein, an actor in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and voice in Family Guy, and John Veneer, writer for Family Guy. Rachel Direct, actor in Saturday Night Live and Wine Country, and Dan Direct, writer for Monk and The Cleveland Show. Jane Wadley, composer for I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and Jenny Armand, music supervisor for Found Objects. The festival screenings include an opening night documentary, Intention, which depicts the intentional artistry of divine healers sharing their crafts within their Louisiana communities while preserving cultural traditions. Other screenings during the festival include Farewell Amour, about an Angolan woman and her daughter who reunite with her husband after spending 17 years in exile. Stardust, a chronicle of a young David Bowie's first visit to U.S. in 1971, a trip that inspired the invention of his iconic alter ego, Ziggy Stardust. The full festival screening and session lineup can be viewed at Southern Screen. That's southernscreen.org/calendar. Aside from films, the festival offers music and podcasts, educational workshops, and panels. This year's virtual festival also features pass and ticket options that include a picnic or occasion crate Louisiana meal in a box for attendees to enjoy at home. All pass and ticket information can be found on the Southern Screen website at southernscreen.org/attend. In Lafayette Parish, Magnet Academy applications for 2021 and 22 opened Monday. Online applications for the many Magnet Academies in the Lafayette Parish school system open at 10 a.m. Monday for the 2021-22 school year. Applications must be submitted via www.lafayettechoice.com before the January 15th deadline. At February 18th lottery drawing for all grade levels will determine student placements. Because of COVID-19 restrictions, the annual in-person Magnet Academy Showcase will not be held this year according to a prepared statement from the school district. Instead, each school will create a short video highlighting its academy. Videos will be posted online to a YouTube channel by Monday. The Lafayette Parish School System offers 19 Magnet Academies at 21 elementary, middle, and high schools across the parish. In addition to providing the curriculum required by state guidelines, academies offer specialized theme-immersed programs such as language immersion and computer science. From arts, broadcasting and journalism, business, health services, legal studies, STEM and technology to early college academy, junior ROTC, and world language immersion, students are prepared to enter the workforce and post-secondary educations with skills for success according to a school system release. Lake Charles' mom finds fresh start in Lafayette a week after a car crash. Carrie Cormier Khan was without job or home after the pandemic stormed by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. 1 week can change everything. A week ago, Carrie Cormier Khan was driving from Lake Charles to Florida with her newborn baby, a 6-year-old, and everything they owned in search of a fresh start. On election day, Khan was moving into a Lafayette apartment with her 2 daughters. I'm extremely excited to be making a home in Lafayette, Khan said. I feel like I have a whole community here, so many people want to help. I feel liberated, and in a sense, I feel optimistic that I'm free to make the best decisions for me and my children. The trip to Florida never happened because she got into a wreck in Lafayette. Hannah Mason, the other woman involved in the crash, quickly realized how an inconvenience to her day had completely upended Khan's world. Lake Charles' mother had packed 3-year-old Nova and 6-year-old Lizzie in a rental car after losing her home during Hurricane Laura and her casino waitressing job early into the pandemic. Mason had help from family and friends immediately after the incident. Khan stood alone with her 2 daughters. From that moment, Mason made it to her mission to help. The mother of 3, who also serves on the Lafayette Parish School Board, started a GoFundMe page. It's now topped $8,000 in donations. Once she discovered Khan would prefer to stay closer to Lake Charles instead of moving to Florida, Mason connected with Acadiana nonprofits and community leaders to help Khan and her daughters settle in Lafayette. It's really been incredible, Mason said. As the world is going crazy over this election, I just wish people could step into my world for the last week. Our community has been absolutely incredible. There's so much aid and so many people who want to help out there. I've just been coordinating everything. Khan stayed in a Lafayette hotel in the days after the wreck with help from United Way of Acadiana Beacon Community Connections, and the St. Martin, Iberia, and Lafayette Community Action Agency. Fundraiser enabled her to sign a six-month lease on an affordable apartment that includes utilities. Mason helped Con enroll Lizzie at Woodville Elementary School. Her first day at her new school was Thursday. I love my new school, Lizzie said. I made 2 new friends, and I think I'm going to make more friends and learn a lot. On Tuesday, Bassett Furniture delivered beds, tables, lamps, and other small pieces to Con's new home. It was at all at no cost, something that Lafayette Furniture Store has done for dozens of families in recent years. When a customer orders furniture delivery, the company hauls away the used furniture, upcycling and delivering them to those in need. That need has become greater this year with the pandemic and hurricanes, said Brian Nix, general manager of Bassett Furniture, who is also a Lake Charles native. There are so many people who just can't afford furniture, no matter what the price is, they're trying to survive, Nick said. I've been able to help a lot of people, and the community is really helping by letting me have it when they're able to buy something new. It's so simple, it's so easy, it's really picking up steam this year. We're doing this twice a week or more. Mason has already found a local family to adopt the Con family for Christmas. And there's more to the story, which I will read to you in a second. But we're at 9:56, which means that our audio portion has ended at our TV stations. But the rest of the morning news broadcast can be heard at first our online streaming service, which is Cypress Street Radio, CYPRESS Street Radio. Push that in your browser. Go to the homepage and click on play, or you can go to our YouTube station, which is AOC Community Media. Okay, moving on. Let's see, the Con family plans to sleep in its new home for the first time Tuesday. Lizzie's favorite part about her new second-floor apartment is sliding down the handrail of the stairs. Con said her daughter isn't sure about having her own room. Lizzie has always slept in the same bed as Con. We've always slept in the same space, Con said. I finally got a 2-bedroom apartment, and she still wants to follow me everywhere. Mason says she's thankful for the opportunity to be involved in the Con's family recovery, but she's also been looking at the bigger picture to determine more ways to connect those in need with those willing and able to help. Who can be the me in the next story, Mason asked? Who can be the connector in the next story? How can we make sure we always have a connector? It just has me spinning my wheels. How can we ensure success? Not every story like this is a success story. Let's see the crime. Okay, and let's just end up today's newscast with a back to basics sports story. Napier wants Cajuns to focus on fundamentals after four games or four TO games. Now, Kevin Foote, staff writer. Saturday's road victory at Texas State is over, but UL coach Billy Napier is determined to carry the lessons learned from that wild contest into the rest of the season. Starting with 11 a.m., Saturday's homecoming affair will longtime rival Arkansas State at Cajun Field. It's November. We've talked to our team quite a bit about the importance of being in contention, playing well enough up to this point to be relevant, Napier said, and the importance here as we kind of get into SPC West play of doing our best and playing our best football. As the coach focused on the final points of the game, watching the film with 4 turnovers and 11 penalties, but also 31 first downs and 614 total yards in offense was an interesting experience. I do think that we took a step forward in a lot of areas, and also as individuals, players last week, but I also think we took a step backward maybe in some areas, Napier said. We're a work in progress, much like every team at any level of football. Watching the film, it seems each mistake the Cajuns made Saturday was sandwiched by a series of quality play. For example, Texas State's touchdown on the fake field goal followed a 3rd down stop, and the fumbled punt followed a 3-and-out by UL's defense. On the flip side, Napier said UL's offense had only 2 negative plays in the game. The Cajuns' offense will not be playing an Arkansas defense that fired 2 assistants, including its defensive coordinator, after a 59-52 win over Georgia State on October 15th. Since then, the Red Wolves have lost 45-17 and 38-10. So the goals for Saturday's games are simple in his minds. Eliminate the negative plays, take care of the ball, really efficient at quarterback, and get a good play at all the skilled positions. And Napier, who added the 2 delay flags Saturday, were on him to avoid wasting timeouts. We were close to Saturday. I'm excited about that. I think all the issues we had are very correctable. It's now 10 a.m., which means our broadcast usually ends at this time, and I am finished with reading you all the stories and hopefully keeping you up to date. Keep your eyes peeled on the election results as we move forward the next couple of days, and hopefully we will have a presidential, a president elected, hopefully by the end of today or early tomorrow. And just keep your fingers crossed and all the ballots get in safe, and that all the results are accurate and up to date. This has been Bruce Cohen. Will always be Bruce Cohen. I thank you for tuning in. We broadcast the local news live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We appreciate you tuning in. When you get out there in the public, be safe, be healthy, and above all, be smart, folks. Just continue to be smart. It looked like everybody took the instructions very well yesterday when going out and voting. We had an almost seamless voting here in the Acadiana area. So a few little malfunctions, but usually happen during such a huge amount of people going out to vote. So we really appreciate your patience and voting. Voting is a right that we all have as Americans. So you exercised your right to vote if you did vote, and that is greatly appreciated. So thank you for doing that. As always, be kind to each other. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you on the flip-flop.